Today, we're diving into a story that's all about this incredible, unprecedented triumph, but also this deep, enduring tragedy. This is the story of the Haitian Revolution, a moment in history that absolutely shattered empires, but came at a staggering and often hidden cost.
But here's the thing. We're not going to start on some big battlefield. We're starting in a cold, dark French prison cell with the words of the revolution's betrayed leader. This is Toussaint Louverture, writing a letter to Napoleon himself, basically defending his life's work and demanding some kind of justice.
And this wasn't just some abstract political battle for him. I mean, this was a physical battle. Just look at the price he personally paid. In his own memoirs, Louverture listed 17 different wounds he got while fighting for freedom, including a cannonball blast that shattered his jaw and a bullet that was still lodged in his body. This was a man who literally sacrificed everything.
All right, so that brings us to our first part here, a hero in chains. We're going to focus on this man who was hailed as the Black Spartacus and how his fight for liberty ended not in glory on a battlefield, but alone in a dungeon.
I mean, just try to wrap your head around this journey. Toussaint Louverture goes from being enslaved to becoming the brilliant general of a revolutionary army, outmaneuvering Spanish, British, and French forces. He brings his people right to the very edge of creating their own independent nation. But then Napoleon, who's terrified of Louverture's power, sends this massive army, tricks him into a meeting, captures him, and ships him off to a prison in the French mountains to die.
But Louverture's story, it didn't happen in a vacuum, right? To really get the scale of what he and his people accomplished, you have to understand the sheer brutality of the world they were fighting to overturn. The French colony of Saint-Domingue. This wasn't just some random colony. No. Saint-Domingue was the absolute jewel in the crown of the French Empire. It produced more sugar and coffee than all of France's other colonies combined. It was, quite simply, an engine of unbelievable wealth, built on a foundation of just unbelievable human suffering. And the numbers here, they're just staggering. I mean, look at this. You've got 500,000 enslaved people, ruled by this tiny minority of about 32,000 white colonists. This place wasn't just oppressive, it was a powder keg just waiting for a spark. So here's the single most important thing you have to remember. When that spark finally came, it led to something that had never happened before and has never happened since. The only successful slave revolt in all of human history. An event that everyone thought was impossible that became a reality.
And man, it was a long, brutal fight. It all kicks off in 1791. Alliances are shifting all over the place. At one point, Louverture even sides with the French after they abolish slavery. But when Napoleon tries to walk that back in 1802 and bring slavery back, the fight turns into a total war for independence, finally ending in victory under a new general, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, in 1804. Now, this final push for freedom, it wasn't just about winning on the battlefield. It was an intellectual victory, too. It was built on this incredibly powerful idea, liberty or death.
What's so fascinating is that the Haitian revolutionaries took the most radical slogan from the French Revolution, liberty or death, and they gave it a whole new, much more literal meaning. You know, for a French revolutionary, it might have been a bit of a metaphor. But for an enslaved person fighting for their life, it was a simple, stark, non-negotiable choice. And if you compare their Declaration of Independence to America's, the difference is just, wow. The American Declaration was aimed at a distant king, and it even talked about hoping for peace with their British brethren. The Haitian Declaration, it was written in the shadow of total war and betrayal. It targeted every Frenchman on the island. It didn't just want independence, it demanded total, eternal separation. And right away, as one of its very first acts, the new nation does something incredibly powerful. They literally erase the colonial name, Saint-Domingue, from the map. They reach back into the past, before Columbus, and reclaim the name the indigenous Taino people had used for the island, Haiti. It was a complete and total rejection of the colonial world.
Okay, so how did the rest of the world, a world, remember, built on slavery, react to this brand new Black Republic? Well, the shockwaves were immediate, and they were huge. And the impact was kind of strange, almost paradoxical. In nearby Cuba, the plantation owners saw a business opportunity. With Haiti's sugar production destroyed by war, they doubled down, massively expanding their own system of slavery to become the new sugar capital. But right next door, in British Jamaica, the reaction was just pure terror.
The fear of their own enslaved population rising up actually helped speed up the movement to abolish slavery there. So what about the United States? Another nation supposedly born from revolution, right? Well, the very idea of a free black republic created by a successful slave revolt was so terrifying to American enslavers that the U.S. government basically pretended Haiti didn't exist. They put it in diplomatic isolation, refusing to even recognize it as a country for nearly 60 years. And that brings us to the final, really tragic chapter of the story. This is the part that often gets left out of the history books. Haiti had won its freedom on the battlefield, but the price of that freedom was about to be extorted in a way nobody could have seen coming.
So the nation is free, it's born. But the question that haunted it for decades was, could it actually survive? And what was that survival going to cost?
So, fast forward 21 years after being driven out, France comes back, but not with an army to fight. No, they came with a fleet of warships that just parked themselves in the harbor. They came with a threat and a demand. And a demand, it's one of the most twisted things you'll ever hear in modern history. Reparations. But not reparations to the people who had been enslaved. Oh no. France demanded that Haiti pay reparations from the formerly enslaved to the French colonists for their lost property. And that property included the people themselves. They were being forced to buy their own freedom a second time. Under the threat of being invaded all over again, Haiti agreed. In today's money, the most conservative estimate of what this cost Haiti's economy is a staggering $21 billion. The legacy of this independence debt was just catastrophic. For more than 100 years, Haiti's government revenues were just funneled straight to France, starving the nation of the money it needed for schools, roads, hospitals, everything. And here's the truly cruel twist. One of the French banks that got rich off this debt, a bank called CIC, actually used the profits to help finance the construction of a global symbol of French liberty, the Eiffel Tower.
And that's really what we're left with, isn't it? The Haitian Revolution is, without a doubt, one of the greatest stories of freedom ever told, the most successful slave revolt in history. But we also have to ask, why is its aftermath also the story of a nation being systematically bled dry, forced to pay its former masters for the right to simply be free? It's a question that really makes you think about what freedom and justice actually mean.